So hello everybody, my name is Johanna Furuhjelm. I'm the Swedish Node Coordinator of TEF-Health, and I will be the moderator for this webinar today. I want to warmly welcome you and thank you all for joining us today on the topic of Call 2 for TEF-Health, aimed towards SMEs developing AI robotic solutions for the healthcare market. Just a few housekeeping points for today. This webinar will be recorded, so I ask that you keep your cameras turned off if you're not presenting or asking questions, and also mute yourself if possible. We will have a dedicated Q&A in the end of the webinar, so I would recommend you save your questions to that time if possible. As I already said, we have a fully packed 1 hour agenda, where we will introduce you to TEF-Health and what we can offer, as well as facts about our recently opened call, the Call 2. Following that, we will hear how TEF fits into the journey to growth of the SMEs. And then we will hear an inspiring story from an SME that has taken part in our Call 1. We will learn about their experience in more detail at that time point. And finally, we'll have a short Q&A session where you in this webinar will be able to ask questions about TEF-Health and our open call, and also questions to the speakers. By this, I actually want to hand directly over to Professor Petra Ritter, Director for International Affairs and Director of Brain Simulation Section at Charité, as well as our own TEF-Health Coordinator. Petra will give an introduction to TEF-Health and a Call 2 from us. Please, Petra.
Thank you very much, Johanna, for the introduction, and also a warm welcome from my side to our Call 2 webinar. My name is Petra Ritter. I'm the coordinator of the European Testing and Experimentation Facility for Health, AI and Robotics. And in the next 15 minutes, I give you an introduction to TEF-Health and our recently published open call. Europe has the goal to become a leader in trustworthy AI, and it is the first region worldwide that introduced a regulation for trustworthy AI. The AI Act came in force in August 2024, last year. The AI Act defines 4 risk classes. Medical devices that contain AI systems are classified as high risk, and high-risk AI systems need to undergo conformity assessment before entering the market. So what is now an AI system? According to the definition of the AI Act, it is a machine-based system designed to operate with varying levels of autonomy and that may exhibit adaptiveness after deployment, and that for explicit or implicit objectives infers from the input it receives how to generate outputs such as predictions, content, recommendations, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments. So an AI system doesn't need to be adaptive, and it also doesn't need to be autonomous. It's a very wide definition. Medical devices that contain AI systems, according to this definition, need to undergo conformity assessment with respect to the requirements of the AI Act. Here we see the timeline of the AI Act. We presently have a grace period for high-risk AI systems, and this grace period ends in August 2026. By then, all products need to have undergone conformity assessment before going to the market. High-risk AI systems need to fulfill certain requirements that are listed here. It is required to establish a risk management system, data governance, technical documentation, record keeping, transparency, and information provision to users, human oversight, accuracy, robustness, and cyber security. And there are also requirements for the different actors. For example, for providers, they need to meet the requirements by receiving a declaration of conformity, disclose name and trademark via registration, establish a quality management system with fulfilling accessibility requirements, and going with their product through conformity assessment. And document the fundamental rights impact assessment. Here on the right side, you see other obligations related to general purpose AI modeling systems. The Fundamental Rights Impact Assessment, according to the AI Act, comprises the documentation of compliance with respect to human agency and oversight, technical robustness and safety, privacy and data governance, transparency, diversity, non-discrimination and fairness, societal and environmental well-being, and accountability. The AI Act defines the role of TEFs as follows. Testing experimentation facilities. TEFs are an implementation instrument of the AI Act, and they provide technical and scientific support for providers and notified bodies. In 2023, the European Commission established 4 TEFs, one of which is TEF-Health. The others are in the sectors agriculture, manufacturing, and smart cities. TEF-Health, a testing experimentation facility for health, AI, and robotics, comprises 52 partner organizations in 9 countries and is funded with 60 million euros funding, half coming from the European Commission and the other half from the member states. Here you see the participating member states. Germany is in the lead of the consortium, and other member states are Belgium, France, Italy, Portugal, Slovakia, Sweden, Czechia, and Finland. Our 52 partners are half private, half public. They provide a wide range of support to SMEs. And we celebrated the opening for business of TEF-Health in March last year, together with the other 3 TEFs in agriculture, manufacturing, and smart cities. Our next large public event will be also together with the other 3 TEFs, held in Milano in October this year, 2025. TEF-Health provides a wide range of services, ranging from access to testing facilities and infrastructure to access to data and a variety of consulting services via a single entry point, tefhealth.eu. Via this URL, you will find our website, and the resources and services can be accessed all via this single entry point. We have presently listed in our database, the so-called knowledge graph that is also accessible via the website, more than 300 services from several member states, and they are also provided cross member state borders and can be discovered via this knowledge graph tool. Our services range from providing access to data, to infrastructure and consulting services. So for example, our customers or users can access sensitive health data from various hospitals in compliance with GDPR and other applicable regulations. They get access to testing facilities, also to simulated environments, but also to real-world environments where they can test their AI systems and workflows, and also receive consulting services. This also includes support for clinical trial studies in real environments, such as hospitals with access to patients and physicians. As mentioned previously, on April 1st, we have published our second open call for services that come at discounted prices. We now have opened 2 calls that can be discovered via our website, and there you also find all the detailed conditions. There's an info sheet containing all the relevant information. So there's also a summary, what is TEF-Health, what kind of services are being offered through this open call at discounted prices. And most importantly, who can apply? SMEs can apply that are established in the European Union or the European Economic Area with AI or robotics innovations with a technology readiness level of 6 or higher, that have not received a state aid within 3 years that exceeds 300,000 euros. Via this info sheet, you will also find the links to detailed documentation for the application portal, the application guide, and of course, you will also get access to the circa 200 services that are provided at discounted prices. The call too will stay open for the time being, either until the capacity is reached by our service providers or until the end of the project, which is on December 31st, 2027. We will have also additional webinars in the future that will be announced on our website, and Johanna also will provide more information about the webinar series that is planned at the end of this webinar. You find more resources. If you, for example, click the buttons under the info sheet, you will get access to a guidebook, to a documentation of this call too, but also access to the online documentation for applicants. If nevertheless there are still open questions, you have the possibility via the TEF-Health platform to use the help desk functionality and submit any open questions via the help desk. And as also mentioned already by Johanna, at the end of this webinar, there will be a Q&A session where you also have the opportunity to ask your questions. For now, I say thank you and will hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Petra, for this extremely informative presentation. I hope that everyone now has a good picture about what TEF-Health is about and where we fit into the AI regulatory landscape and what we can offer. In interest of time, I will hand directly over to Professor Bart Haex, Director of Business Development at EIT Health, who will talk about the SME market entry pathway, how TEF fits into the journey to growth. Please, Bart. You're muted.
Okay, my computer was freezing. Sorry for that at exactly the wrong moment. Sorry for that. I will need to restart my presentation, but that will only take a second. Sorry for that.
Well, no worries. It happens when we go live.
Thank you. So welcome, all of you, entrepreneurs, startups. And so let me start introducing now how what we do in TEF can help you in your entrepreneurial journey. Entrepreneurship is something that sounds very attractive. It's grabbing an opportunity, taking the initiative to develop it, but it also includes assuming risk. So while it seems to be very attractive, actually it can be very challenging. And this is, of course, where we as TEF want to come in to support you during this journey. You're not just entrepreneurs, you're digital entrepreneurs, and digital is not just binary. And if you compare, for instance, to digital media, it's not just about content, it's also about how content is created, distributed, exchanged. So it is indeed about technology, and also this is what we will help you with, validating new technologies. But it's also about validating your operational models, your business models. And Petra just already gave some examples on how we could do that for you. Now, the question is, of course, is healthcare digital? And if we look at figures, what you see here on the right side is different industry sectors, but also different ways they can be digitized. And unfortunately, you can see that healthcare is very much at the bottom. Of course, there's certain subsectors or parts of healthcare like imaging, genomics, that are very much digitized, but on a whole, the healthcare sector is not so digitized. And this is, of course, also a hurdle when you want to bring your AI in a real life environment. Also, the healthcare sector, as you may know, is not harmonized. So you have different models in Europe, the Beveridge and the Bismarck model, and all kinds of variations from that. But you also have different modalities when it comes to reimbursement, for instance. You have complementary, supplementary, duplicate insurance, and depending on what your AI is actually doing and how it is applied, may significantly influence your go-to-market. And then there's different providers also across Europe. So there's private insurers, there's public insurers, and there's combinations of that. And also here, this is something where TEF-Health may come in. So you have seen the European map that Petra has been showing, and we are present in a lot of healthcare systems. So we can also guide you not only through the technology validation, but also through the adoption cycle. Petra already mentioned the AI Act, and in fact, there's much more regulations related to data and technology that are coming in. And also here, TEF-Health wants to offer you support in overcoming the hurdles that these regulations might bring. So in conclusion, unfortunately, so these are animals we don't see a lot in Europe. They're unicorns. We don't see them a lot, and we certainly don't see them a lot in healthcare because it's so difficult to scale up, to validate, but also to scale up your solution in the European market. And of course, we want to change that. So if we then take a look at your business, and you might be familiar with technology readiness levels or TRLs, but there's also business readiness levels and also healthcare pathway or clinical readiness levels. And you can see those three here in a circle. So you see the business models, the healthcare paths, and the technology. And in each of these different levels, you can go from 1 to 10. And with TEF, we really want to focus on the validation part. So meaning TRL or B level 4 going up to 6. And also if you apply for a discount through the TEF call, we also want you to reach a relatively high level TRL or BRL level at the end of the project. Now, how can your business be validated through TEF? As I already said, it's not just about technology, it's also about business, about healthcare pathways. And typical mistakes that entrepreneurs make is that they're insufficiently aware that the algorithm is just a start. It only becomes valuable when it's really validated, that you probably need to pivot. And so maybe the technology may not work, or maybe the technology may not work well in a certain environment. And this is also where TEF comes in to help you to come to a product market fit. And luckily, and this is of course an advantage of digital healthcare, that things can happen in a digital way. You can do iterations much faster. So using MVPs, minimal viable projects or products, is much more efficient in the digital sector. So now how will we help you? First, we look at the technology validation. And here you can see the technology readiness levels from 3 to 7. And throughout these different stages, the validation in a lab, but also in a relevant environment, the validation and the demonstration, but also the operational environment, as Petra just said, so the real world with patients and doctors. Also there, we can help you. It's not just about technology validation though. While working together with TEF partners, you will also see whether the problem you are solving is really worth solving. And a model that is often used for this is the shark bite on a mosquito scale. So you want problems to happen frequently, so like a mosquito bite, but also you want a problem to be painful, so it needs really to be solved. A shark bite problem. And by being in a real life environment, you will also find out where this soft point is that we see on the right upper corner. So this is, of course, very important when you optimize your business model, which also includes who is paying for this and why people are paying for this. What you will also discover is clinical pathways. So by being in a real life environment, you will learn how things really work. It may be that your product is a business-to-business product. It may be that it is a business-to-customer product. If we think about a hip implant, where you might use some imaging, hip implants are maybe bought by a hospital, but it's a surgeon that maybe makes the decision whether technology is used or not. And at the end, it's an insurance company paying for it. So it's very important also to understand this financial pathway, but also the clinical pathway, how your technology will be adopted across this clinical pathway. And it's with all of these components, of course, we focus on the technology and the validation of the technology, but while doing that, we also help you with refining your business model and helping you to find out how your technology can be integrated in a clinical pathway. So if you look then at the TEF services in the different TRL levels, and you go from the top to the bottom, we can help you with providing data to also, this can be ultrasound, MRI data, omics, metabolomics, etc. But we can also help you with cleaning these data or assessing the quality of these data. So jumping then from this virtual environment evaluation, you can see that most of our services are actually related to TRL levels 4, 5, 6, where on the one hand you have the simulated environment testing facilities, and on the other hand, the real world testing facilities. As said, it's not just technical, it's also clinical and business. And to make life easier for you, we have divided all our facilities and support in 3 different categories. So if you would browse through the knowledge graph that Petra just mentioned, you will see physical, you will see virtual, and you will see consulting services to support you. And these can apply to a simulated environment, or these can apply to a real world environment. So let me give some examples just to give you a flavor on what the TEF consortium is offering you. So when you look at virtual validations, these can be digital twins of brains, for instance, can be an AI resilience evaluation. It can be data, diagnostic data on sleep disorders, for instance, or the vulnerability scanning and penetration testing. And what you can see here between brackets is all the different providers that you will also get acquainted with that are TEF partners and that can help you in this support and in this validation. Next to virtual validations, we also have physical validations. For instance, robotics, the testing of robotic prosthesis and rehabilitation exoskeletons, which is provided by an intelligent partner. We can do stress tests, PT or PET scan, imaging data acquisition, wearable devices. So all of your AI can be tested on physical, in a physical world, and these are some examples of that. And then finally, there are some consulting examples as well. So this can relate to your business model, but they can also relate to legal support. For instance, an escrow for AI-based software, usability consulting. There's many, of course, more. And in Petra's list, you saw that there's more than 300. So I'm just giving a few examples of these. But what is more important is that all of these services are not standalone services. So to explain this, I give you this pathway of surgical robot. It's actually all services that are provided by TUM, our technology partner, Technical University of Munich. And actually, when it comes to a surgical robot, they can help you throughout the whole pathway, starting with the validation on a data set, EMC testing, clinical studies, but then also in real life, the regulatory support to be able, of course, to apply your AI. So it's basically a coherent set of services along your journey, helping you, of course, with the technical validation, but also with finding out how the clinical pathway integration would work, and also whether your business model, so who is paying for this, and why, and how that could actually work. So in conclusion, we have a quite comprehensive set of services, we think, that can help you in quite a big set of hurdles that you might occur doing what's often called the desert, or the difficult part to overcome, going from TRL 3 to 7. And we think that with TEF-Health, we can really offer you a very good support in that. And to conclude with Rick Rubin, and Rick Rubin is the guy on the right-hand side, the one on the left you might also know, but Rick Rubin is a famous producer, and he said, sometimes the difference between the unfinished painting and the finished painting is as simple as finding the right frame. And we think that with TEF, you might be finding the right frame to make your technology work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart, for helping us finding the frame, I think, and also for guiding us in how TEF can be of help in what could be considered a complicated environment where both we and the SMEs are operating, and by also then presenting a little bit in-depth more detail about our over 300 services that are listed on our website as well. Then we will move forward in our webinar. Our next presenter is Manuel Bragança Pereira. He's a board member and chief medical officer at Hope Care. He will tell you about the company and their solution and the experience they have had with applying and getting services from TEF-Health through our Call 1. Please, Manuel.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Just 1 second. So once again, my name is Manuel Pereira. I'm a public health medical specialist, and I am the board member and chief medical officer of Hope Care. Hope Care is a Portuguese company that developed a remote patient monitoring solution. And the concept that we have is the concept that healthcare can be provided with the patient at home. So the concept that we have is to have a solution that provides us the hospital at home concept. The ideal is to integrate different types of data in order for us to monitor the patient remotely and only get interventions clinically when it is in fact necessary. In order for us to provide our services, we have the necessity to certify the solution as a medical device. So in 2023...
Sorry, do you have, I was just wondering, there's a lot of background noise. I wonder if you have...
I'm going to try to slow it down. Just give me 1 second.
A different speaker or...
Yeah, I think it should be. And now, are you listening me better without too many?
A little bit better, yes, maybe. Yes, try. Thank you.
Okay. So as I was saying, the Hope Care solution, it was certified as a Class 2B medical device in 2023. So we are able to perform the monitorization of the patients at home with a software that allows us to integrate different types of data and stratify risk of the patients according to the vital signs that they have. With the concept that we have developed and implementing pilots in several hospitals between 2015 and 2017, we get several results regarding healthcare consumption. So we got reductions in healthcare consumptions in about 55% in hospital readmissions, in emergency department visits, and hospital stays durations. So in fact, we can use our solution to improve results in the side of healthcare consumptions, but also with the improvement of patient clinical outcomes. This was possible because the solution is implemented together with the teams in the hospitals. So our solution is implemented together with them, and I'm going to explain a little bit better how the solution works. So the concept of remote patient monitoring solution for Hope Care starts with the definition of the clinical protocol to be implemented. So this discussion is made by the clinical teams in the hospital and the clinical team of Hope Care. And we are going to define the inclusion criteria of the patients, so which type of patients we are going to monitor, which vital signs and health data we are going to collect, the risk of stratification for each parameter and each vital sign that we are going to provide in the solution, and also the devices that we are going to connect to the patient to be monitored at home. With that, the doctor in the hospital can start to prescribe the solution to the patient. So the patient with the prescription get access to an app that he can have on his cell phone and allow us to connect different types of devices. These types of devices, these data sources, will be aligned with the definition of the clinical protocol. So it was the minimum number of devices for us to completely monitor the patient at home. It can be class 3 medical devices like implantable cardiac devices, other medical devices like a thermometer, a pulse oximeter, or a blood pressure machine, and also wearables for life data, just like physical activity or nutrition. These data are integrated in HopeCare solution, and through an API, it goes to our databases, and it's where the algorithm of risk stratification starts to work. This algorithm, the first algorithm that we are developed, is certified as a Class 2B medical device for EU-MDR and for UKCA. And this stratification allows us to only take the real necessity of clinical intervention for nurses and doctors for the triage team according to a risk stratification process. So the 5 levels of alerts are given to the clinical teams, and they can answer only to the clinical situation that they really need clinical intervention. This in the first line by the triage team, and in the second line by the medical team. Why I bring this slide to here? Because as we have different types of data, and this solution has been certified as a medical device, we are always looking for new concepts and new types of data that we can integrate in the solution. So with this, we bring the health surveys. The health surveys are another important information, and why we bring that? Because as explained before by Professor Bart, the clinical decision is not made only by remote patient monitoring data and bioviral signs. They are making also by signs and symptoms. They are made by quality of life. They are also made by another types of evaluation that can be performed through health surveys. And in our conversations and discussions with the clinical teams, they found it quite interesting to have new algorithms of risk stratification that allow us to integrate the health surveys with the remote patient monitoring data. And it was the concept of to start this application for the first phase of the TEF. It was to create a new algorithm that integrates these all types of data in a new risk stratification model, integrating the health surveys. But for that, we needed the right partner. And the right partner, it was, in our experience, Coimbra. Coimbra is one public hospital in Portugal, Elias Coimbra, which has the possibility to integrate this type of projects. And we have the clinical teams aligned with the solution of HopeCare. So in the pneumology and cardiology side, they feel the need to have this all information integrated in the new risk stratification algorithms that we can produce and we can develop with clinical research. So with this all alignment between HopeCare, Coimbra, and Instituto Pedro Nunes, we created our application for the TEF in order for us to create this new algorithm. For us, HopeCare, it is a new product, so it needs all the whole process of the certification of the solution again. So the solution as we have is not compliant with all the things that we can, with the new things that we will apply, but with this, we need to apply for a new product. And for this, we're going to integrate the health surveys and the remote patient monitoring data in the new risk stratification models for COPD and heart failure. So what we are testing now is that the machine learning algorithms that integrate different types of remote patient monitoring data that allow us to stratify new risk models for evaluating the patients and to improve the clinical decision in the hospitals. For this to work, it was very important to have the clinical teams aligned. It was the first step. Even before the application, it was to have the whole teams aligned for us to go for this application and to improve the submission and the implementation of the project. And the vision, of course, is to have better outcomes for the patient. So to avoid him to have decompensations and healthcare deterioration, providing to the healthcare teams the adequate resources for them to intervene in a more preventive way, and to improve clinical benefits for the patients and for their quality of life. For this, it was important to have a roadmap. So we have a project management side that allows us to fulfill all the parts of the project. We have to submit our research protocol for us to have our clinical studies validated and approved by ethical commission. We have made that process in Coimbra. We identified the patients and the site to implement. So it is Coimbra and these two pathologies. And the third part is to have the patients involved, recruited, and to start to collecting data. That's the next step that we are going to develop. With this, we're going to train the first model of the machine learning new risk stratification models that we are going to develop. And after that, we're going to retrain the model with more data in order for us to have a training and retraining of the model. We are going to reanalyze it again, and we're going to disseminate the results and have the publication. With the publication of the studies, we're also going to have the new application for a new certified product, and also to fulfill all the requirements for UMDR and UKCA in order for us to have this solution implemented in the HC Alert in the Hope Care solution. So this collaboration, it was important in order for us to have the possibility to test and retest this algorithm with real patients, in a real environment. It allows us to improve the TRL of this new solution because it is new compared to the other one. So it's something that we need to improve in a real environment. It is also important for us to have the interoperability and integration of our healthcare solution with the hospital, because it avoid us to duplicate the work of the healthcare professionals in the hospital. So Coimbra provides us also this opportunity as well. And finally, one of the most important things is to develop clinical research with the scientific evidence that we can collect during this project and improve patients' clinical outcomes. Naturally, this has challenge, of course. The ethical and legal approvals takes their time, and it can in fact be a bottleneck in the project. Another thing that is important, it was to have the clinical teams on board. To have the communication between doctors, it was important, but we must never forget that we are implementing a solution with the teams that are with a huge workload from their side. So this should be very carefully negotiated with them. The patient's recruitment and engagement is also important because we need to collect the data and to have the patients onboarded with the solution. So they need to understand if this type of solution can improve, in fact, their results, and if they are complied with the monetization that we need. And last but not the least, in the business perspective, to scale up the solution and to offer these new products in different environments. So, finally, I must say that this has been a good experience until today. It provides us all the requirements that we need and all the resources that we need in order for us to develop new products in a certified solution. And in the future, we should continue with this collaboration together with TEF. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manuel. Really great to hear about your experience and your journey and how it continues as well. Can I just ask you a question, because I was intrigued when you talked about the how to get the clinicians in line, and how difficult was it to align with these? Did they have different opinions about the solution, or were they quite aligned with what they need and what they would have liked from it?
Thank you for the question, and it is very important. Well, mainly the first concept, it is to understand this type of solutions can improve their workload. But in the beginning, it's more workload for them. So the first concern that they have in Portugal is, okay, I am full of work today, and you're going to give me some more work to do. That's the first part. That's the first challenge. But when they start to see the results and to see that I don't need to see the patient every single day, I can look at the patient only when they need, we're starting to have more engagement from their side.
Yeah.
And in health, it's like a trigger. It's someone says it is good, the other ones normally go around and say, yes, okay, I can work with that, and then I can test it. Another thing that is important is the clinical side also have in the beginning the belief that this type of solutions can work. If you find this type of people, normally the implementation went well. If you found someone that is going to have some questions or too many concerns with the solution, it can be a very big bottleneck, because we need data from the patients, we need the patients to be onboarded. And if the clinical teams are not aligned from the beginning, it takes too much time and takes too much difficulties to implement the project. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And by that, asking my first question, I want to open up then for a Q&A. So now it's time for asking questions by all the participants. And if you would like to ask, about any questions from the speakers or about TEF-Health or the open call, please raise your hand. And when presenting the question, please turn on your camera and briefly present yourself and your question. You can also, of course, submit questions in the chat if you prefer that. So I'll give the floor to the participants if there's any questions. I don't see any raised hands for now, so maybe it needs to marinate for a while. But then there's time. Petra, do you have a question or want to present something?
I just wanted to comment. So everything seemed to be very clear. That's good.
Yes, I kind of want to still, I would like to invite Tiago from IPN in Portugal that maybe address the most common questions that they have received during their call one. Because we kind of are prepared that we will get the same questions in call two. So please, Tiago, maybe I don't know, one first, second, third most asked questions, and the answers, please.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So great webinar. So yeah, the most frequent asked questions, we have this documented in the TEF-Health website where Petra showed the document for call 2. We also have one for call 1, and the list of FAQs is presented there. But I can advance that for call 1 at least, and I believe that will be the same for call 2, a lot of companies' questions are related to the eligibility part. So if they are eligible to apply, and how can they receive the discount from the service, and what sort of support are they receiving it? It's not a funding directly for the company. It's a discount that is provided in the price of the service, and this has to be very clear for the SMEs that are applying, and the state aid conditions, and if they didn't yet receive more than 3,000 euros of state aid, how they can check this information. And we always tell the SMEs to check internally with their auditors and with their financial teams to check these conditions, because it's different from country to country and from state aid. So yeah, it's important for each SME to check internally with their auditors and financial teams.
Thank you so much. No further hands, and I can also, well, we already received a question as well to our front end office, and that was regarding the kind of SME from a country that are not part of the project apply. And yes, if you're an EU or EEA from EU or EEA country, you can apply even though your country is not part of TEF-Health. And then we have a question in the chat. Is there any specific criteria for the entity size of the business status of SMEs to be entitled to participate in? For example, is a company available who has already commercially available AI solutions in the European market? Petra, do you want to address the question?
Yes, thank you for the question. Indeed, there is a very clear definition of SME that is related to the number of employees, but also to other key numbers that is referenced and linked in the application form. So you will find the clear requirements to be classified as an SMEs in the application form. This is the first question. The second question about whether a company can be already active and commercially providing AI solutions. Yes, indeed. Obviously, there's now a new regulation on the market, the AI Act, and that also affects products that are already on the market. And they also need to undergo now the CE certification to demonstrate compliance with the AI Act. And those companies who have such devices on the market are welcome to apply for our services.
Yes, thank you, Petra. And then, of course, a company might have several solutions, part on market and part under development. So these are, of course, also can be applied for. But if there's no further questions,
There is
well,
actually a further question about how long it takes, I think. How long does it take from applying until starting the test usually? We have a timeline of a maximum of 45 days for evaluation, the eligibility requirements and the suitability of the scope of the AI system. So it shouldn't take longer than 45 days until a response is received, and the response comprises, if the SME is eligible, the opening of the matchmaking process with the service providers that have been selected by the company.
okay. Thank you, Petra. And there's coming more now. So from Gregoria Martinez, what is the percentage of the discount that service providers can offer? Is it possible to know the discount before, during the application? I see that the matchmaking is after the application, but it would be good to have an estimate beforehand. Petra.
Yes, indeed. Once you have entered the application portal, you will also find the ranges of discounts that are being offered, so you get an idea. But the final binding value will be obtained when the contract has been negotiated. But this is just an estimate and gives you an indicator of what you can expect.
Thank you for the questions. Now I don't see any new ones, but if you also have more questions, you can of course send them in via our help desk or via our functional email, so we'll be able to provide you with answers later after this webinar as well. So it's okay. We have some time still. So can we participate if your wearable still doesn't have the CE mark? Yes, you can.
Yes, indeed, you can. So this is actually exactly the target group. We want to help SMEs to achieve the CE marking and go through this process. And for this purpose, we are offering our services. So one precondition that is very important to be aware of is that the product, the AI system to be brought to the market should have a technology readiness level of 6 or higher. Yeah, so we are really here to help you to bring a major product through the regulatory process so that it is getting ready for market access.
And do you have an estimate on how long it takes to write the application, Petra?
So how long it takes to make the application? Yes, it's actually the application form is very much straightforward. You require a couple of documents from your headquarters that needs to be signed, and probably this is a limiting factor to achieve the signed documents. But otherwise, the application form is very straightforward and easy to fill. It shouldn't take longer than, I would estimate, half an hour to fill it in principle. Yeah.
If you have all the information there.
Of course.
Okay. Now I think we're exhausted the questions, so we are approaching the end of the webinar. I want to thank each and everyone for your participation and also for your engagement, and also thanking, of course, the excellent speakers of today. But before we log out, I wanted to mention a few things. I will see if I will be able to bring up a slide. Just a few seconds. So I wanted to share, let's see, hopefully you can see my slide now. I wanted to bring up a slide here to highlight the upcoming services-oriented webinars that we are designed to help SMEs to understand and access TEF-Health key services. The next one is coming up is on the 21st of May, and on the topic of AI robotics regulatory pathway, where we have IPN and TÜV AI Lab presenting. And here on this webinar, you will learn how TEF-Health supports SMEs in navigating the regulatory frameworks under MDR and the AI Act. Then we have a second seminar scheduled for the 6th of June, where we will pitch our services, giving a unique opportunity to the SMEs to directly engage with our service providers, TEF-Health service providers. The first session, as I mentioned, on 6th of June, Eleni from France and Cetic from Belgium will present their services and also at the same time respond to questions from the attending SMEs. More service-oriented webinars will follow, and we will announce times and topic on our website. And finally, I want to provide you with, if I can, with a few relevant links. One to information about the call registration.
Now see the thank you slide. I think it was very shortly only displayed.
Now you see the correct ones. Thank you, Petra. So the first one is info about the call, and the second one is the registration. And then also last one, we have a survey up to understand and develop our services further, to understand then the requirements and the needs from the SMEs for the future, for us actually to develop. And we will, yes, of course, I wonder if anybody has in the meeting from TEF-Health has the registration no, not yet. So the registration for the upcoming webinars will follow, and they will be published on our website. So they're not there quite yet. We'll of course share more information and on LinkedIn and webinar or website and so forth. But then I want to thank you, unless there's any more questions. Thank you for today, and wish you all a great Easter holidays for those celebrating. And let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Johanna.
all. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. Thank you.